You are not in control, not of your health, not of other people, not of tomorrow. And the moment you stop pretending otherwise is the moment you become free. This is not pessimism. This is the beginning of mastery. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, understood this better than anyone. He ruled an empire, commanded armies, commanded the fate of millions in his hands. And yet, in his private writings, he reminded himself daily, you control almost nothing. In the next 18 minutes, you will discover how a Roman emperor turned radical acceptance into unshakable strength, and how his methods can transform the way you face fear, failure, and the chaos of modern life. Marcus did not inherit peace. He inherited war, plague, betrayal, and the weight of an empire collapsing from within. His reign was not marked by glory, but by survival. And through it all, he practiced something most of us avoid. He mastered himself, not the world, himself. That distinction is everything. We spend our lives trying to control outcomes, other people's opinions, the future. We exhaust ourselves managing what cannot be managed. Marcus knew this was madness. So instead, he turned inward. He asked a different question. Not, how do I control this? But how do I respond to this? That shift, that single recalibration of focus, is the foundation of Stoic philosophy. And it is the reason Marcus Aurelius never broke. But here is the uncomfortable part. Mastering yourself does not mean becoming calm. It means becoming honest. It means looking directly at your fear, your anger, your weakness, and refusing to lie about what you see. Marcus wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Notice what he does not say. He does not say you will find happiness. He does not say you will find ease. He says you will find strength. And strength, real strength, is built in the gap between what happens to you and how you choose to meet it. Consider this. Most people believe that confidence comes from success, that inner peace comes from external stability, that you earn the right to feel strong after you have won. Marcus believed the opposite. He believed that strength is not the result of victory. It is the condition that makes victory possible. He did not wait for the world to become manageable before he became calm. He became calm first, and that calm became his power. This is the first reversal. You do not master yourself after life gets easier. You master yourself so that life, however hard, cannot master you. Now let us go deeper. Marcus was surrounded by luxury, yet he practiced voluntary discomfort. He slept on hard floors. He fasted. He reminded himself constantly that everything he loved could be taken away. Why? Because comfort makes you fragile. Pleasure makes you dependent. The more you need in order to feel okay, the more vulnerable you become. Marcus knew that a man who cannot bear discomfort is a man who can be controlled by anyone who threatens his comfort. So he trained himself to need less, not out of self-punishment, but out of strategy. He was building resilience the way a blacksmith tempers steel, through deliberate exposure to hardship. This is not about rejecting joy. It is about refusing to be held hostage by it. Think about your own life. How much of your anxiety comes from the fear of losing what you have? How much of your stress comes from needing things to go a certain way? Marcus would ask, what if you practiced losing? What if you imagined, just for a moment, that the thing you are clinging to is already gone? Not to torture yourself, but to free yourself. Because the moment you realize you can survive without it, it no longer owns you. This is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds dark, but it is actually liberating. It teaches you that you are stronger than your circumstances, that you can endure more than you think, and that peace does not come from avoiding pain. It comes from knowing you can face it. Let us pause here and turn towards something practical. You are sitting in traffic, late for something important, heart racing, frustration rising. The Stoic question is not, how do I make the traffic move? It is, what part of this situation do I actually control? You control your breathing. You control your thoughts. You control whether you let this moment poison the next hour of your day. That is all, and that is enough. Marcus would say, the traffic is indifferent. It does not care about your schedule, so why are you giving it power over your peace? This is the practice. Not once, not when it is convenient, every single time. In the small moments, in the insignificant irritations. That is where mastery is built. But here is the second reversal. Mastering yourself does not mean suppressing your emotions. It means understanding them. Marcus felt anger. He felt grief. He lost children. He was betrayed by people he trusted. He did not pretend these things did not hurt. Instead, he examined why they hurt. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Read that again. The pain is not the event. It is your interpretation of the event. And interpretation is a choice. Not an easy choice, but a choice nonetheless. This is where most people misunderstand Stoicism. They think it is about becoming emotionless. It is not. It is about becoming wise about your emotions. It is about recognizing that your anger is not evidence of injustice. It is evidence of unmet expectations. Your anxiety is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that you are trying to control what you cannot. Marcus practiced this daily. He would write down his reactions and dissect them. Why am I upset? What am I clinging to? What belief is being threatened? And in doing so, he reclaimed his mind from his emotions. He did not eliminate feeling. He eliminated the tyranny of feeling. Now, imagine applying this to your life. Someone criticizes you. Your first response is defensiveness. But pause. Ask the Stoic question. Is this criticism accurate? If yes, then it is a gift. You have learned something. If no, then it says more about them than about you. Either way, you are free. You do not need to defend yourself from the truth, and you do not need to be wounded by fiction. This is emotional sovereignty, and it is available to you right now. Not after you become stronger, not after you achieve something. Now, in this moment, you can choose to interpret what happens to you differently, and in doing so, you change everything. Before we continue deeper into Marcus's methods, I want to invite you to become part of this conversation. If this way of thinking resonates with you, if you are seeking clarity in a chaotic world, subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment below. What is one belief you have been clinging to that you need to let go of? Not for me, for yourself. Writing it down is the first step toward release. Now, let us go further. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for publication. He wrote them for himself. Late at night, after brutal days of war and politics, he sat alone and reminded himself of what mattered. He was not performing philosophy. He was surviving with it. And that is the third reversal. Philosophy is not decoration. It is not something you study when life is calm. It is the tool you use when life is falling apart. Marcus knew this. He knew that without a clear framework, without principles to anchor him, he would be swept away by circumstance. So he built that framework, deliberately, daily. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a metaphor. This is a method. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity to practice virtue, patience, courage, wisdom, justice. The thing you think is blocking you is actually the path forward. Consider failure. You tried something. It did not work. Most people interpret this as evidence of inadequacy. Marcus would interpret it as information. What did you learn? What can you do differently? The failure itself is neutral. It is your response that determines whether it destroys you or develops you. This is the Stoic reframe. Nothing is inherently good or bad. It is your use of it that gives it meaning. A setback can break you or build you. The event is the same. Your mind makes the difference. Let us bring this into the present. You lose a job. The immediate feeling is shame, fear, uncertainty. But apply the Stoic lens. What is actually within your control? You cannot control the decision that was made. You can control your next action. You can update your skills. You can reach out to your network. You can take this as a signal to pivot towards something you've been avoiding. The job loss is not the problem. The paralysis is the problem. And paralysis comes from focusing on what you have lost instead of what you can do. Marcus would say, you have been given time. How will you use it? That question is always available to you, in every situation, no matter how painful. But now we must confront something harder. Marcus Aurelius was a good man in a broken system. He ruled Rome, a civilization built on slavery, conquest, and inequality. He knew this, and yet he did not dismantle it. Does that make him a hypocrite, or does it make him human? The Stoics believed that virtue was the only true good, but they also believed in accepting the world as it is, not as you wish it were. This tension is uncomfortable, and it should be, because it forces us to ask, what do you do when you cannot change the system, but you refuse to become the system? Marcus's answer was this: you change yourself. You act with integrity within the constraints you are given. You do not wait for the world to be just before you practice justice. You do not wait for others to be wise before you practice wisdom. You do what is right even when it changes nothing, especially when it changes nothing. This is the fourth reversal. Virtue is not contingent on results. You do not act with courage because you know you will win. You act with courage because it is the right thing to do, regardless of outcome. Marcus writes, do what is right. The rest does not matter. Not because the rest is unimportant, but because the rest is not up to you. You cannot control whether your honesty is rewarded. You can only control whether you are honest. You cannot control whether your kindness is returned. You can only control whether you are kind. This is the Stoic bargain. You give up the illusion of control in exchange for the reality of integrity. And integrity, unlike success, cannot be taken from you. Now think about your own moral compromises. The times you stayed silent when you should have spoken. The times you acted out of fear instead of principle. You told yourself it did not matter, that you were being realistic. But Marcus would ask, what are you becoming in the process? Because every choice you make is a vote for the kind of person you are. You do not get to pause your character until conditions improve. You are building it or eroding it right now. In the small decisions, in the moments no one sees. That is where you are either becoming the person you want to be or the person you are afraid you are. Let us go deeper into fear. Marcus was afraid. Often. He commanded legions, but he was not a warrior by nature. He was a philosopher forced into the role of general. And yet he did not let fear stop him. He wrote, "Frightened of change? But what can exist without it? What is dearer or closer to the nature of the universe? Can you take a hot bath unless the firewood undergoes a change? Can you eat food unless it undergoes a change? Fear of change is fear of life itself, because life is change. The only constant is transformation, and the moment you resist that, you are at war with reality." Marcus learned to see change not as a threat, but as the structure of existence. He stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" This is the fifth reversal. Pain is not the enemy. Avoidance of pain is the enemy. Because avoidance makes you weak. It keeps you trapped in a narrow band of experience, terrified of anything that might disturb your comfort. Marcus believed that hardship was not a departure from a good life. It was evidence of a full life, a life where you are actually engaged with reality, not hiding from it. He writes, The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Say that to yourself the next time you are struggling. The struggle is not in your way. It is the way. But let us be honest, this is hard. Practicing Stoicism in the abstract is easy. Practicing it when you are grieving, when you are scared, when you are exhausted, that is a different matter. Marcus knew this. His meditations are full of moments where he is clearly struggling, where he has to remind himself of the basics, where he almost sounds desperate. You can endure this. You have endured worse. This is not the voice of a master who has transcended suffering. This is the voice of a man fighting daily to stay sane. And that is the most important lesson of all. Mastery is not a destination. It is a practice. It is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you return to again and again every single day. Consider your worst day, the day you felt like you could not go on. Marcus had days like that, many of them, and he survived them the same way you did, one breath at a time, one decision at a time. He did not have some secret strength you lack. He had a method. He had principles. He had a way of thinking that allowed him to interpret suffering differently. And that method is still here, still available, still waiting for you to use it. You do not need to be an emperor. You do not need to be extraordinary. You just need to be willing to look at your life honestly and ask, what can I control? And then do that every day, without exception. That is the path. Now let us talk about death. Marcus was obsessed with it, not in a morbid way, but in a clarifying way. He writes, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is memento mori, the remembrance of death, and it is the ultimate Stoic tool. Because when you remember that your time is finite, you stop wasting it. You stop waiting for permission. You stop delaying the life you want to live. You act now, not perfectly, not fearlessly, but genuinely, because you know that someday, perhaps soon, you will not have the chance. This is the sixth reversal. The awareness of death does not make life meaningless. It makes life urgent. It makes life sacred, because every moment you have is a moment you will never get back. Marcus knew this. He lived with death constantly. Plague, war, assassination attempts, and instead of becoming paralyzed, he became focused. He asked himself every morning, if this were my last day, how would I want to spend it? And then he spent it that way. Not chasing pleasure, not avoiding pain, but acting in alignment with his values. That is the gift of mortality. It strips away everything that does not matter and shows you what does. So ask yourself, if you knew you had 1 year left, what would you change? What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? Who would you forgive? What would you create? Marcus would say, why are you waiting? You do not know how much time you have. None of us do. So live as if it matters, because it does. Not in some grand cosmic sense, but in the immediate, personal, irreplaceable sense. Your life is happening now, not later, now. And every moment you spend distracted, resentful, afraid is a moment you are choosing to waste. Not because someone is forcing you, but because you have not decided to live differently. Let us bring this full circle. Marcus Aurelius mastered himself not by becoming perfect, but by becoming awake. He saw his thoughts clearly. He questioned his assumptions. He refused to be ruled by fear, anger, or desire. And he did this not in isolation, but in the middle of chaos. While ruling an empire. While losing loved ones. While facing his own mortality. He did not wait for life to become easy. He met life as it was. And he chose every single day to respond with wisdom. That is the essence of Stoicism. Not detachment, not coldness, but clarity. the clarity to see what you can control, and the courage to let go of what you cannot. You are not an emperor, but you face the same struggles: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, the desire to control what cannot be controlled, the exhaustion of trying to manage everyone and everything around you. And the solution is the same now as it was 2,000 years ago. Turn inward. Master your mind. Decide who you want to be, and then act like that person. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, in this moment. In the next decision you make, that is where your power is. That is where your freedom is. That is where Marcus found his, and that is where you will find yours. The world will not stop being chaotic. People will not stop disappointing you. Life will not stop presenting obstacles. But you can stop being at the mercy of it all. You can stop reacting and start responding. You can stop waiting for control and start practicing acceptance. You can stop demanding that life be fair and start deciding to be wise. That is what Marcus did, and it is what you can do. Right now. Not because it is easy, but because it is the only path that leads anywhere worth going. Here is the final truth. You will forget this. You will go back to worrying about things you cannot change. You will get angry at things that do not matter. You will lose yourself in distraction and fear. That is normal. That is human. But now you have something you did not have before. You have a way back. You have a method. You have Marcus whispering across the centuries. You are stronger than you think. You can endure more than you know. And the only thing standing between you and peace is your willingness to let go. So let go, not of effort, not of care, but of the illusion that you were ever in control in the first place. And in that letting go, you will find something unexpected. Not happiness, not ease, but something better. Strength, clarity, freedom. The kind that no one can give you, and no one can take away. You are not in control, and the moment you stop pretending otherwise is the moment you become free.